Welcome to episode 198. No, 178. I'm getting ahead of myself. Of Dial the Gate. My name is David Reed. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. Patrick Currie, who played Fifth, Eamon, Chaka, he's going to be joining us for this hour. But before we get started, if you enjoy Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, it means a great deal if you hit that like button. It makes a difference with YouTube and will help the show continue to grow. Please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend, and if you want to get notified about future episodes, click the subscribe icon. And giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. And clips from this live stream will be released over the course of the next few weeks on the Dial the Gate and gateworld.net YouTube channels. As this is a live episode, Patrick is joining us here presently, and so if you are in the YouTube chat, my moderating team is standing by, consisting of Tracy and Anthony, and they will take your questions for Patrick, and we'll ask them in the last third of the show. Until then, he is all mine. Patrick Currie, guest star, Stargate SG-1. Sir, it is a privilege to have you. I've really been looking forward to this one. Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
How did you get into this industry? How young were you when you knew that this is what you wanted to do for this period of your life? What was the pivot point for you?
I think just being really unpopular in high school and not being able to play sports. So I ended up in the theater program, and I found a family, I found friends, a great amount of passion, and then went off, auditioned for university and got into a very good program. There were only two in Canada at the time, and once I finished the program, moved into film and television.
It has been wild watching the film and television industry just absolutely explode as far as Canada goes. I mean, it's always had some kind of a presence, but not like this. I mean, the industry heavily leans on it now. This is a great thing.
Yeah, it's completely taken off. I mean, originally I was in Toronto, and they already had a very Canadian-based film industry itself. But the TV expansion across the West, when I moved out here, it was just starting. 21 Jump Street was just ending its run, I think,
right,
when I got here. And then X-Files, and then we became like the sci-fi capital in a lot of ways.
Right. So you came to Vancouver?
Yeah.
Okay. What were some of your most memorable gigs earlier on?
Most memorable gigs early on.
I loved you in Galactica.
Yeah, Battlestar Galactica was great. No, I did an episode of a TV show called Breaker High.
Breaker High.
With this young actor named Ryan Gosling. So, yeah, that was back in the day. It still plays on the white TV channel here, so I love it. Yeah. My nieces and nephews' friends have a good laugh at that.
Yeah, I saw him on Goosebumps back in the mid '90s. The people that you don't expect to, or just don't have any idea are going to explode. They just take off. So you all have to. Everyone has to start from somewhere. So
that's right.
Where can you tell me a role that pushed you in ways that you didn't anticipate on the page, or that you really got to sink your teeth into, that moved you as a person?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I mean, I would have to say Fifth was probably one of the most emotionally connected characters, which I think is why he resonated so well with the audience and why I've been so blessed to go to so many conventions, because I remember I prepped for it, and I was struggling a lot because I was playing it as an alien, and then a buddy of mine, we were running lines, and he was like, "That's not how you're gonna do it, is it?" And I was like, "Oh," and then I realized this actually has to go to betrayal. So It has to start at love and go to betrayal. And that story arc is not a fun one to have to go through.
No, and it's a lot of meat in terms of one episode. It really takes up what is like, the second and third, of three pieces of that story. There's a lot that happens in there. What material were you given in the audition process? Were you aware, when you were auditioning, that there was going to be like he was going to be abandoned? Was that presented to you when you were auditioning, or did you find that out when you got the full script? I'm curious to know when you found that out.
I didn't know at the audition. In the breakdown, it did say that he was going to be abandoned.
Okay.
But I didn't actually have all the scenes. I think the scenes I had were, I think this scene was when I'm talking to Carter about having carried them back.
Okay. In the engine room. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
that one I remember specifically.
It's one of the defining moments. Maybe before we really get into fifth, I should say I was just reading through the comments earlier, and someone, General Maximus, had put, this was before we started, I agree what they did was a necessary evil, and you can understand why they did it, but it was also the first time this viewer, was disappointed in them for their moral conduct. And it's like, wow, that really says it, because that team is about heroes, and what they did to him was for the greater good, but it was also the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there in that scene. Tell me about finding that character. Okay, so you were going to play him more alien, and you switched to a more human characteristics.
I had auditioned for Stargate so many times. It was I'd gone in constantly, and it was like lab technicians, military people all the time, and you're young actors, so you're giving everything to every single audition. And I remember the last audition I did before fifth. I was like at the helm, spaceships were flying outside, doing the audition, and it ended. And Peter DeLuise stopped and looked across, and he leaned across and he said, "Man, that was awesome." He's like, "You nail every audition you come in for," and he's like, "But it's not you. None of them are you." And so I called my agent after that, and I just said, "I'm taking a break from Stargate. Can't do it anymore. It's been like 30 auditions. The rejection is just too much from one source." And I guess I was away, maybe, I don't know how long it was. Could have been a year or so. But she called me up and said, "They've requested you for this audition." And I said, "No." And she said, "No, they are asking you to come in for this. They know your work. They're asking you this time to please come in for this one." And it's a guest star. So I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll go for it." And then I got the sides, and I was like, "Okay, this is way more interesting." But I was still a bit reserved, because you get burned so many times. You're just like, "Oh, do I really want to give 100%?" And so I think I was holding back. And I was running lines with a friend of mine. And he was like, is that how you're going to do it? And he was like, "You really have to let go of all the acting part of this. This is one of those ones you're not just a word sayer. You're not just doing lines. This is one of the ones where you really got to invest, and in theater, we do that all the time. You have more time to work with material and rehearse with other people and feed off of those relationships and inform your character." So I was really lucky to have a friend who went to the mat with me, and we worked the scene out and got to the emotional truth of it. And it was tough, I gotta say. Once you book a gig and you're in that space, you can perform it over and over again. But getting there, it was a struggle. He pushed me really hard. There were some harsh words at times. He's really good. And he was like, it has to be vulnerability, and you can't fake it. You just can't, And when I watched it back, that I can see why people comment on that last moment
when he freezes in the right.
Yeah, and it's like, ow. Yeah. I'm glad they record those things so you don't have to keep going over them again and again.
Well, you see the look on it, expression on it right when he freezes. You know, it's the moment. In my opinion, you may agree disagree with this. It's the moment when the I guess I don't know if it's disappointment is the correct characterization, turns to anger. And it's right there. That's in my opinion when the time is frozen. He's not really trying to analyze what's happened anymore. He knows that they've betrayed him, and it's a powerful scene. Even they're arguing on the ship. We shouldn't have done this, and Jack's like, "What do you suggest? You know, what was the alternative?" So it's a great episode of
I think that it's definitely not a planned moment. If that transition that you see towards the end, if that's what you're reading into it, it's that like when I watched it was just like, it is literally disbelief. Like he just looks and he sees it, and it's like it's a new feeling, and it's just sort of washed right over him. And it's just like we all have that in life when we're trying to like someone gives you bad news in public, and all of a sudden you have to put up you even like your emotion is going to switch, and for 1 millisecond there's the truth of the level of truth in that pain or whatever, and then you put up the public acceptable version of pain, because you don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt because everyone knows it's going to hurt, but you want to at least put on that face. And the way they edited it, it's beautifully done. That he's caught right in that raw first time he's ever felt that feeling ever. He doesn't know how to process it, and it's just hangs there.
If there had been, I'm curious as to your opinion on this. If there had been a difference in the circumstances where they could have gotten away with him aboard the ship, where, like, for instance, the replicators wouldn't have like held on to the landing gear and prevented the ship from escaping. Do you think that he would have continued to remain loyal to them all the way through for, you know, into like potential missions together in the future, or as an advisor, you know, or do you think that he would have transformed at some point into something more akin to his family's true nature? I'm curious as to what you think.
If he had left with them, and his family was frozen in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's a nature versus nurture thing, right? And I think that he is, his surroundings would have informed what he had become.
So he would have continued to stay a positive force.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. See, it makes it even worse. Oh gosh, yeah. They really cut their losses on this one. Obviously, no future is guaranteed. Did you have an inkling at some point that, oh yeah, this has got to be continued? Or was it just like, you know what, maybe that's it, and that was a great one-off, and as far as the character goes, if you have to end it on a scene, that's a great one to end it on? What were your thoughts?
I think I actually didn't anticipate him coming back. I'm pretty I thought it was a great episode, a great guest star to have on my resume, and I enjoyed the performance. It's an amazing opportunity filming. But yeah, I don't remember thinking. There are shows where I definitely always think, oh, they got to bring me back, and they never do. On that one, I thought that was it. I was like, okay, yeah, I think that storyline is done, right?
Yeah.
For that character, anyway, not all replicators, but for that character.
Right.
So yeah, I was shocked when I got the call to go back.
Yeah, obviously no fan can know, only the people who are creating the show, and you know, season over season for a while there, they weren't sure if they were going to do another one, and all of a sudden they did, and it's like, okay, well, what content is fresh to mind, and what can we pull forward from the past? Okay, so New Order Part 1, I'm assuming you get a phone call, you find out that you're coming back. What are your first thoughts, and what did you first, you know, see on the page?
Oh, I was just excited. Like, I didn't having had to work so hard to find that vulnerability.
Right.
You know, and I mean, as actors, that's what acting school is about. I spent 4 years doing in tights, in a studio, voice, movement, all that stuff, getting to raw vulnerability. Like, that's just what we do. And then I go into the audition for this one, I get to that place, and then it comes back, and it was like, don't have to do that again.
Right.
Because he's gone the other way. Yeah. Although that I'm joking about that, but to maintain the audience's, in the end, he becomes a sympathetic character. I know that because of the fan reception. But you can play someone evil and not really from the truth, and you won't win people over as much.
I would never have characterized him as evil. I've characterized him as betrayed and angry.
Yeah.
We see it even. New Order Part 1 is definitely anger. New Order Part 2 is okay. I'm finding, now that I have her, I'm finding a place where we can possibly move forward now, because there's a great scene where she's on her hands and knees and she's begging him not to torture her again, and you can see it in his face and how he puts his hand through her hair. It's like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, it's a sad, the humanity of it is so sad, because we all know what it's like to be, or many of us know what it's like to be dumped, right? And as much as you're plotting the revenge and the vengeance, all you're thinking is, unless you love me again. Like, and then all that's out the window. And that's what he's playing with in that whole New Order Part 1 and Part 2, right? It's like, but he has a limited skill set of tools available to him to win her affection.
Mm-hmm.
So he's pulling on the ones that he has, and those are 2 tough episodes.
Oh man. What was it like working with Amanda?
Brilliant. Brilliant. From the very first episode, like, I was pretty green. I hadn't really done a lot of stuff. I guess she'd done this show. It was season 6, was it?
You were in season 6, yep.
Yeah, and she was just such a grounding force, and totally connected, totally there with you. Relationship is instantaneous when you start playing a character opposite Amanda. And we filmed, I think it was the scene, the scene in the ship where she tells him that I had brought them in. Was it? I can't remember. There was
you carried them one at a time back to the Prometheus.
But at one point, Amanda and I shot a scene where they had run out of time because Richard Dean Anderson had to go somewhere, and I'd never shot like this before, but like, they had a 2-camera setup. So I was doing my lines over here, and she was doing her lines over here, and we're supposed to be related to each other. And she could tell that I was not getting it. Like, it was a whole new technique that I had no idea how to deal with, because you can hear the person saying the lines to you over there, and your body's immediately trying to respond to that, but you got to stay over there. And she just coached me through that. And then playing the scenes with her in New Order was a lot of fun.
We Gate World was on set at the time during those torture scenes. Darren was there, and he met with her briefly, but she could only just basically say hi, because she was so involved in getting into that headspace. They had to not isolate her, but give her room so that she could work the material and really, feel, the moment of those scenes. I can't imagine, even you're just, you're putting your hand in something. You're not like, whipping her or anything like physically torturous, but it's all in the mind and in the head. And still, it's, it would be, I can't imagine doing that to someone.
It's, being on set is really, performing, acting is it's tough at times.
Yeah.
Performing on set is incredibly tough because you don't know what it's going to bring to you, from the acting partner to the crew to the weather, everything. All those elements are in play. And the great thing with Amanda was the professionalism in when we were filming those torture scenes.
Mm-hmm.
They call cut. We were both in our own spaces, separate spaces, but totally available to each other. Like you could sense there was we were available to each other.
Mm-hmm.
If we, as an artist, needed anything to get us ready for the next take. But I could tell like she needed her space in between, in every moment, and she was respectful as well. I worked on a show once where the person I was working with had done a lot of TV, and they insisted on talking about small talk until they yelled action.
Oh.
Like it was impossible to say my lines.
And
they'd be like, they just finished talking about their kid. It was like, don't.
And they pull you right out of it. Yeah, I've heard stories like that where, some people just have to get out of their headspace and then they can snap right back into it. But like in terms of the other performers, where do you leave them? They have to kind of figure it out. Willie Garson, the late Willie Garson, he was like that. Rob Cooper had one scene with him and he was just chatting with him during the 100th episode. And then they called Rob's one scene on screen, the executive producer. And he just was blown away by how he could just completely flip over like that. But some people, they have to find their way back into it. So
it depends on the content of the scene, right? These the scenes that we were doing together were, you just had to have that space.
When you're in one space like that, the holding cell, the replicator holding cell, what have you, where a lot of these scenes are done out of order, but for that at least, were you allowed to go through it pretty sequentially so that you could organically feel the movement of that?
I can't recall, but I would imagine the way knowing that crew as much as I do, we would have shot it, sequentially. Okay.
And then the farm stuff, was that shot before the onset had begun? There was a scene on a farm. It was probably like the interior was okay.
No, we shot the farm, the interior of the farm and the exterior of the farm were an actual farm in Cloverdale or somewhere.
Okay.
I can't remember what we shot.
Because Amanda had longer hair at that point, so.
Yeah. Let me think for a second. I think we actually shot the farm stuff first, to be honest, because I remember being so shocked seeing her hair and not having any idea that it was coming.
Right.
I had no idea. Like she had. Yeah, so
she grew it out a little bit. She never can, She was playing at that time, it wasn't standard issue in the military. So that I was the thing that I really surprised me. There were two things. The first one is that he creates a copy of her, which my understanding is that was very late in the writing process that was added. That wasn't always in there from the beginning, that he creates a duplicate of her. And then the second thing that surprised me was how quickly, we assumed he was going to be the bad guy for the season, how quickly he's defeated in Gemini and she takes over. That was quite the twist. And frankly, I suppose, if any of us in our teenage years could duplicate the love of our life and bring them with us, I suppose we probably would. And he certainly had the power to do that.
I think at this old age, I'd say bad idea, kid.
Right? Well, especially when he copies her so perfectly. So of course she's going to leave him too. It's like, that was funny. I'm sorry, but that was really funny. I have a question regarding the speed. Okay, so when I think we talked about this briefly before, but I just wanted to make sure that we get this covered as well. There was a question as to where the others went between the time that the planet was destroyed and you appear on the spaceship all by yourself, and you had once told me that you had thought that he had destroyed all of the others in a fit of rage. Do you still hold to that? Is that your interpretation of it?
In the first episode?
So when at the end of mixing up my episode names here, Unnatural Selection, time freezes, and then we move forward to New Order, and the planet is breaking up, but yet some of the replicators survive, led by you. Between those two times, something had happened to the other replicators to prevent them from all getting away, the other humanoid forms. Is it still your interpretation that he had destroyed them so that he could get away from them and break out of the time field?
Because
something happened to him.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with my original
Okay.
belief. Yeah,
It's more juicy.
yeah. I think he would have. Yeah, because they were all human form replicators as well, so they had flaws that were far beyond their nanite state or whatever that it is. So I think so. And I mean, they were kind of not the best family.
No, not really. No, they yeah, I think you could successfully make that argument. The other two characters that you were involved with were particularly cool. One you had picked up from Dion Johnstone, Chaka, so you had to bring in your own interpretation of it while also servicing a history with the character. And then Eamon, who was just a delight. Which one do you want to talk about first?
I just snorted. Eamon, I think, is probably my all-time favorite character that I have ever played.
Really?
Well, he's just. I was at a convention in London, and someone got up and said, "My mom thought it was Niles Crane from Frasier playing that character."
I can see that.
I was like, okay. And Andy Makita came up to me on set. We were in the ship, and he's like, "I just wanted to have a little word." And Andy and I got along great. We both have East Coast roots, and he said, "I just want to point this out so you're aware how it's coming on camera. But you're kind of like a lizard person, but he's coming across a little gay." And I was like, and back then especially, that's not what you want to hear. If that's not your intention. But I think the thing was, it didn't freak me out, first of all, because I looked like a lizard, and I thought, if that's what's coming through, then that's what's coming through.
Yeah.
It was all basically, I guess the word is it was the very Niles Crane prissiness.
Yeah, just a little bit flamboyant. Not a lot. I think it works with the character. I think it makes it's the same respect that Niles, I think, works, is that there is a humanity and an endearing factor that's thrown into that. And he's a nice guy, even though he designs garbage disposal units for food storage for the food service division,
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I'm glad Andy, the editing was superb, especially I remember there was a moment when he goes, I haven't seen it in a long time. I didn't get through all the episodes you sent me.
Yeah.
But my favorite moment was I asked the guy a question, and then I go, I guess not. And it was like the way they edited it was just perfect. It was what I wanted the performance to be. He's just slightly catty and.
Oh, of course, he had some of the best lines in that episode. I can't remember the exact sequence, but like his boss, he just calls his boss out for being a moron. Has it occurred to you that you're just a moron?
That's it. And then the boss doesn't say anything, and then I go, I guess not.
It's great stuff. How was it dealing with the makeup? Because you did this pretty back to back with Chaka and with Eamon.
Yeah, and I think it was pretty soon after Unnatural Selection.
No, this
What
was
seasons were it?
that. So Unnatural Selection was in season 6, and then we had Space Race and Enemy Mine early in season 7. So
Right.
it wasn't extremely. It was like a matter of months for sure.
Yeah. No. So yeah, I can't remember. I kind of can't remember if I auditioned for them. And I don't think I did. I might be wrong, but I don't think I. I know I didn't audition for Chaka. They asked me after I did
Wow.
Eamon if I wanted to do Chaka. Um, but the makeup would be a nightmare if it weren't for Todd Masters and his team.
Yeah.
Like I am slightly claustrophobic. I don't like having my hands bound, or like I don't like having like being restrained. And when they did the head cast,
Yes.
that could have been the end of me. Like that was just like I was terrified.
I know actors who can't do it.
Yeah,
They're just like, find another way. You can't suspend my whole face in that goop for however long.
But Todd is just so personable and so makes you so comfortable. And they poured the goo on, and they could tell that my body was starting to tense up. And his assistant, like, she just was like, "I'm just going to grab your hand now if that's cool." So she grabbed my hand, and it actually grounded me, because you're in there and you're just thinking, what if the fire alarm goes off? Like
any number of things,
you know. They're saying they're going to take care of me, but maybe they're going to run. I don't know. But that was tough. And then doing it in the morning, we were in like 4 a.m. In the makeup trailer, and it's just 3 hours of application every single morning. And then once you're in there and you're kind of getting settled, and you're like, okay, I'm encased in my new reality. I can deal with this. I'm all comfortable. And then they pull up the contacts, and they're like, this big. And they put those in, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I've got to be losing one more of my senses. And yeah, Eamon I got used to pretty quick, because at least you could still feel your face. Like your muscles are tired afterwards, because Eamon made a lot of faces. So
right.
The muscles of my face were quite tired. With Chaka, it was more like being encased in cement, because it's such a deep prosthetic. You're so far in, removed from everybody. And then when they put on the hands and the feet, and you have to be taken care of. Someone has to take care of you between takes.
Yeah, and the teeth, I would think.
Yeah, they come up. You get really friendly with your the person who's your assistant. Between takes, they come up and take your teeth out and deal with the slobber and get them cleaned up for the next take when they come back in. So, but amazing crew on that show.
How much of your performance, I've heard this answer a few different times, but I'm curious for you, because you're such a physical performer, as exemplified in these them letting you go to town with this character in Enemy Mine. How much of your performance emerges through the makeup process? You're sitting there, you're watching him come to life, or your eyes are closed and you're just feeling the application one way or the other. But I imagine like your understanding of who this individual is coming about and informing what you've already learned on the page as the makeup is being applied to you. Or am I just reading too much into that?
That would be the case with Eamon, not so much with Chaka. With Chaka, Dion had also established the character, so I was doing a lot to follow in his footsteps and had to make the character. I mean, the makeup does almost all of it for Chaka, and then you bring performance to it. But with Eamon, it was definitely, as I was getting used to the feeling of the prosthetics on my face and how I would be able to move with the prosthetics, that was sort of informing, like his whole like sort of movement stuff was partly growing as I was realizing the limitations of my normal movements.
He's such a great character. You know, you never are going to anticipate who the audience resonates with and who you resonate with yourself as a performer until, you know, all these things come together. And you know, he's one of those where I just wish there was some excuse for them to bring him back, because he's just delightful to watch, and I'm sure, you know, perform as well. So it's good stuff. I have with Stargate being kind of on like hiatus right now, I've been asking, you know, a number of different people, as there may be a fourth series on the horizon. Would you be interested in either reprising one of these parts, the ones that have not died, or perhaps being something new in a fourth Stargate series? Were MGM going to greenlight something?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I am looking forward to what they come up with, and hopefully we'll be finding out something, you know, in the next few months here. But
I mean, I would love to play Eamon again, but as a series regular, I don't know if I'd be able to do the makeup that.
Oh gosh, absolutely. I have to imagine it completely takes its toll on some people. Andy Frizzell, who did the Wraith Queens, she would say that when she wore her contact lenses all day, after she took them out, she would have tunnel vision. She would have to be driven home. She couldn't see.
Yeah.
This is crazy. I've got some fan questions here for you. Evie Cahill says, thank you so much for your thoughtful portrayal of Fifth. You inserted so much humanity into that role. I genuinely felt for him. What personally drew you to the character, other than the work itself? Was there anything that you personally resonated with him?
I don't think I knew it at the time, but as time has passed on, and as I've engaged more and more with the queer community through the convention process, the story was very much about waking up one day a fully realized adult and realizing that your feelings are brand new, and that you're in a hostile environment, both externally and internally within your family. And now you have to figure out how to survive and exist within that, when you are just discovering who you truly are. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of the story of queer coming out. And everybody relates to that. And all adolescents go through that in their own way. But I think that's why the show had such a profound... I was at a convention, and this guy walks up wearing his military gear, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk to this person. You speak to everybody, you meet everybody where they are. And I'm starting to talk to him, and then I realized that he's brought his child, who's an adolescent, and they have the Stargate pin in the rainbow flag. And I'm like, how cool is it that I get to be the meeting place for this father figuring out the relationship with their queer child, who is also figuring out who they are at the same time. And that, you know, they come to this event, mm-hmm. and that kid feels that he has a space.
Yeah, he's got a place.
That space is there, and I'm holding it for him because I played a character who showed what that journey is like.
I think it's so important that Brad and Jonathan Glassner, Rob Cooper, created a show that could be enjoyed by the whole family and not just the grown-ups when the kids have gone to bed. That they created a space where these conversations could be had about all kinds of different things. If you wanted to enjoy the show for entertainment, you could. But you know, you can open up the hood of the thing and really have conversations, meaningful conversations with your family about the things that were talked about on the screen. And I think it's one of the reasons you and I are still sitting here talking about this, and why we've got, an audience of 50 current live viewers wanting to learn more, because the content is meaningful, and you can have those connections with people at the conventions where you make, you get a glimpse into their lives, and it's like, yeah, this was what I took part in was cool,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And as you mentioned, that last scene in Unnatural Selection, when they say to him, "We use his humanity against him," right? That's a great conversation starter for families. And
yeah, all of us at one time or another have, even if it's for something trivial, like like getting extra condiments at a restaurant or something. So we have all used people to our immediate advantage one way or the other, or have been used, based on where another person is, if they're employed somewhere and we're needing them to do something, or if it's a friend and we need them to do something for us, either subtly or not so subtly. And it's easy to put ourselves in that position afterwards, where it was like, oh, I just see what happened to me there. And I've been guilty of it, and I feel bad afterwards. And if I can, I try to find the person and say, look, that was not cool of me, even if it was intentional or not. These things can happen. Lockwatcher wanted to know, what was the most difficult preparation you've had to endure for a role? Costume, makeup, or even your character development?
Difficult preparation.
Was there a character that required a lot of research?
No, I don't think so. But I did have a really, I spent a lot of time and went really deep in Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
With Enzo. Yeah. I was really happy with that character. I really loved it, and I was glad they brought me back for the final season just for that little cameo. But I remember finding him was tough, because he's a nasty piece of work. And although people say it is fun to play the bad guys or play villains, it is. But for me, just getting there, finding that character was a lot of work. And then once I had him, I loved playing him. It was a lot of fun.
In what way was he work? Just accessing the emotional boundaries of that performance, or trying to justify his behavior?
I just
Battlestar is one of my favorite shows. I'll just put that out there. So I'm totally in with you on this.
Like I've known people who treat other human beings like he treats other human beings, and I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
And I don't want to ever know how those people feel. But if I don't, that's not a part of humanity. Those aren't shoes I wanted to step into, right? But to play the character, when you're playing a character for a larger story, where that truth has to be very true, so we can actually see the outcome, which is a positive thing in stories at large, not just this one. I had to really go to that, find that ugly, nasty, I don't care about anybody place. So yeah, it wasn't a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Evie also wanted to know, when you took over for Chaka from Dion, how carefully did you study his portrayal, and how did you make that role your own? I think we skipped over that a little bit. I'd like to explore that a little bit more.
Well, they gave me his footage, his shows, his episodes, and I watched those and just tried to get, from a movement perspective, just went with rhythm and that sort of thing. And then I think, I don't know, can people tell that it's not him playing the part? It's supposed to be the same guy, right?
I remember his makeup was a little darker. I remember they changed his makeup in some respects, which kind of surprised me. You're only going to have the facial structure that you have, and so the mask on top of that is going to reflect that. The movements were very similar, and but also I could see a different physicality to it as well. And obviously it doesn't say Dion Johnstone, it says Patrick Currie. I was in the know going in that you were playing this role. And I think that the excuse partly for me for that is that he's not the same character that he was 2 seasons before, running around in the woods.
I was going to say, an environment changes everything, right? So
Correct.
There's a lot of things that have changed. And again, I think this, I don't recall his episodes this far in the future, but the episode, the Chaka that I played, I thought there was some humor, like in the like a degree of lightness, and that's probably because you're right, he has changed as a character and evolved and is in this new situation, and he's a more evolved being.
He's not wearing animal skins anymore. He's wearing constructed clothes and has taken on a role in his society. So he's almost like a dignitary or a diplomat in his own right. So his stature is taller, and I'm sure that was deliberate on your part. Where you're bringing a more evolved characterization of the character out based on who this person is now in this text versus he's not a teenager driving around with his girlfriend in the back seat of his car. He's evolved in his life.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, the coat did a lot of the work.
Oh, okay. Absolutely.
Well, that's a great coat, right?
It was. Let me see here. Raj Luthra, in each of the roles that you did, looking back this past little while that you have had, were there any changes that you observed that you would have made in looking back in some of this content? As an actor, when you review content, do you review it with a critical eye of like, knowing who I am now, I would have made a different choice there? Or do you just look at the work as if it's encased in amber and it's just a part of history?
I think that is more the point. I don't really watch stuff. I mean, I did watch Unnatural Selection, and I'm glad I did, because I've forgotten a lot of it. But I wouldn't have changed anything in that performance for sure. But no, I think you just gotta walk away once you're done. And then it goes. I mean, don't forget the performances are perfected in editing and all of that kind of stuff. Of course. So,
yeah, you're not created in a vacuum.
Back and re-edit.
Jeez. Do you prefer playing more villainous personas or more heroic ones, if you have to pick, or do you not look at them like that? Do you look at them just as a blank sheet? What do you sink your teeth into more vigorously, more earnestly?
The villainous ones are more fulfilling and they're more challenging because, the good characters, the villainous ones, as hard as they are to perform, it's fulfilling to actually get the final result that you want, grounded in truth. There's like going into an audition where you're playing a guy whose family's been murdered and he's like got to do all this kind of stuff. Sometimes that's really meaty drama that you get to go in and like really tap into that stuff. I find that easier to do because we're so familiar with that. But finding the same humanity in somebody who's killed the family, that's right, and to find the truth in that.
Where is this coming from? Why is this behavior occurring? That's
because when you play the exterior and you just play the shell, when you see, some people are very good at playing the shell, and there are lots of great performances like that. But when people really really find the truth in those kinds of characters, that's when, award ceremonies happen and things like that.
Right. How often do you come across content when it's still on the page where it's just, this is no good? Like either I'm not connecting with this character at all, and I can't see how anyone would.
Well, with all the streaming services, it's happening a lot more often.
It seems more like content than art. So much of it. It's like, okay, we've done this because this will make money, not because we have anything to say.
Yeah, and that's why I've sort of moved into, I've pulled back from acting mostly at this point in time. If my agent finds something that she thinks will actually want me, that will interest me or her, then we look at it. But I have 3 projects on the go right now. I met with a production company, I don't want to jinx myself, but very recently.
Of course.
And had a very long meeting about a project that I've been working on for quite some time. And this is the closest I've been to a company picking it up. And that's all I'm going to say about it for now. Of course.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to that. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So Tracy actually wanted me to ask that question. What are you working right now that you can chat about? So thank you for that. I've had the privilege through this show of talking with a number of the former Stargate cast, like Core and Satellite, who, as they've gotten older and options have opened up or changed, it's like, okay, I'm not going to waste my time on something that's not worthwhile, even if it means a paycheck. If it's not worth doing, I'm not going to do it, and it's cool to watch, the process evolve for people in terms of what they want to take on and what they're willing to take on and what, suits them at that point in their life too. Because you can't play the same character, that you played 20 years ago, because you're not that person anymore. So it's cool stuff. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with me on the show. It's been a hope of mine for a while that we could get you, and I'm privileged to have you, Patrick. This means a lot to me to have you on.
Thank you very much, and we can do it again if you end up coming up with a whole bunch of new questions, or if they come up with a new Stargate show.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I also am doing a commentary series where we're actually going back with select members of the cast and crew offline, and we're doing commentaries of some of the old work. I've sat down with Jacqueline Samuda, with Jay Brazeau, and a few others, and I would love to sit down with you and analyze Fifth scene by scene.
Yeah.
So
that sounds interesting.
I would appreciate it. I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention to everyone that convention, FedCon, I'll be there in Germany.
Yes, what is the date for that? FedCon Germany.
Oh, you had to ask. I think it's May 25, 26, 27, around there.
May 26th to May the 28th. Meet your science fiction stars. Let me pull this up on the screen here. All right, and I don't know what it's asking me about data protection, but yes, it's quite the list here, and you are among them. So yes, this is terrific. Is it in Berlin? Where is it going to be?
It's in Bonn.
Okay, Bonn, Bonn. Got it. Yes, yeah. FedCon 31, everyone. All right.
So this will be my third con in Germany. So I'm very flattered to have been asked again.
That's the thing that I love about these conventions, is not only is it an opportunity for you to meet the fan community, but it's also a chance to get out and explore a little bit more and see different parts of the world too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's truly great. Patrick, thank you so much for stopping by, sir. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show on this end, and I will be in touch with you.
All right, take care.
Take care of yourself, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Patrick Currie, everyone. Stargate SG-1's 5th. And Eamon and Chaka. Thanks so much for tuning in to Dial the Gate. My name is David Reed. We are getting ready next week for a really interesting pair of discussions. Stargate and artificial intelligence. I have joining us Google's head of AI, Lawrence Moroney, and Stargate SG-1 Atlantis and Universe executive producer, Robert C. Cooper. And they're going to discuss emerging artificial intelligence as it relates to Stargate, as it relates to what we've been seeing with ChatGPT and OpenAI with Bing. And we've been seeing this a lot in the news lately. Maybe I certainly have. Maybe the algorithms are just throwing this a lot at me because it knows that I like it. But the technology appears to be evolving faster than a lot of us anticipated. And in some cases, it's kind of scary. So we're going to have Lawrence Moroney from Google on with Robert C. Cooper to discuss those specific situations that are emerging now in the real world, and how science fiction is becoming science fact so quickly. So Lawrence and Robert will be joining us at 1 p.m. Pacific time this coming Saturday, March the 11th. Followed by Jack O'Neill AI chatbot Q&A at 3 p.m. Pacific time, Saturday, March the 11th. So we have been training an AI chatbot to talk like Jack, and it's pretty close. So if you want to tune in and ask Jack O'Neill, an AI chatbot, a question, be sure to join us next week at 3 p.m. Pacific time for that. So that's going to be happening. That's going to be pretty cool. Kate Hewlett, Jeannie Miller on Stargate Atlantis is joining us March the 18th, Saturday at 12 noon Pacific time. And I've just confirmed, I don't even have it on the calendar yet, but it is, we have confirmed, Robin Mosley, who played, I'm turning 40 this year and I can definitely feel it. He was in Window of Opportunity, and let me see. The name is blanking on me. Shame on me. He played, for Pete's sake, Malachi in Window of Opportunity, and he also played Dr. Reimer in Morpheus. I've been wanting to have Robin on for a while because he's the guest star in one of the biggest episodes of Stargate SG-1, or Stargate really of all time. It's regularly on the top. So we're going to have Robin on to discuss those performances after Kate Hewlett on the 18th of March at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So really looking forward to those appearances. Before we let you go, if you like what you've seen with this episode, please click that like button. It makes a difference with YouTube's algorithm. I appreciate my moderating team, Tracy and Anthony, Jeremy, Reese, and Summer. You guys make the show possible and can allow me to do my job while you guys handle the intake questions from the fans. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks to my producer, Linda Gategabber Fury, and big thanks to Frederick Marcoux at Concepts Web, who keeps dialthegate.com up and running. We are going to also be having the voting system in place for the AI competition, the AI artwork competition that should be ready to go in the next few days here, I'm hopeful for. So we're going to get more information soon. So for those of you, the 15 of you who submitted content, I really appreciate that. We're going to be getting those votes tallied pretty soon and giving the fans a chance to vote on them as well. I think that's all that we've got here for you. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. Thanks again to Patrick Currie for taking his time with us. I'll see you on the other side.